Hello, I'm Jen Nami Padgett with the Dear Nami Brodcast on the Everyday Priestess Channel here on YouTube. Please check out my sister's Stars and Cards, Sword Magic, and How to Be a Priestess broadcasts on this same channel. So let's hop right into answering the question that I have for today. Dear Nami, this question is about addiction. My partner has been in AA and sober for 5 years, and they went out last weekend and drank, and I'm terrified. It brought me right back to all the years of addiction, and honestly, I'm just traumatized. I told them 5 years ago that if they drank again, I would leave. Now here we are. Do I leave? So first off, wow. I just want to acknowledge this has to be so heart-wrenching. Seeing a person go through addiction is not easy, no matter how healthy we get with ourselves. I guess I'll answer this question in a couple of ways, because there's some nuances I'm not clear on, so I'll try to give advice on a couple of different scenarios. So first off, what I want to say, just in general about programs like AA, they are so very good for so many people, but there's just one caveat I'd like to explore, and so I'm going to bring that up. In the notion of starting over just because you mess up one time, rather than celebrating all the days that you got it right, for me, I feel like this just feeds into this bigger societal picture that it feeds into that construct that like we're bad, and that we'll only make the right decision if we repent and ask for forgiveness and start over. So it really doesn't give a lot of compassion itself to the addict who may be struggling each day to get sober or to be and remain sober. I don't know anyone who's in an addiction pattern who wants addiction. What about the 1,800 plus days in that 5 years that they got it right? I really don't think AA is intending to do this, to feed in this larger construct, but we do have that as a society. So I think it's worth mentioning that anything that is teaching us that we're not worthy, I guess, or that we've messed up completely if we messed up one day. I don't think, in my mind, and just with my experience, I'm just talking from personal experience as well. So I think it's just something to like pay attention to. We have this heart-wrenching thing that's happened with you where your partner has gone out and potentially going back into a cycle of addiction. So that's really scary, and we do have to acknowledge that, but we also want to take a look at how we're behaving as a society towards that addiction and the one-time mess up that they might have had. And are we feeding into further addiction? If we're not just taking a look at that person in the situation as a whole. So, in my own addictions, when I've messed up, it would bring me to a point where I threw in the towel because it just felt so bad to be in that place. I failed. And what do you do when you feel bad? You allow the addiction to feed you because that's a temporary relief that you need to deal with the feelings. The compassion that we should have around people who struggle with addiction is that they are using that to survive. We can die from emotional trauma. I mean, shock in itself. So if somebody is in addiction, they're using the tools that they have to deal with whatever situation that they have. And I'm not saying that that's an excuse, but it is something for us to look at and for us to have some compassion about. And then this other thing about 5 years, I mean, that's amazing. 5 years sober. If you went through the addiction cycle with that person, so you know all the struggles that that person went through. You know the struggles that you went through in assisting, but you probably know that your partner doesn't want to be in that addiction. So what do? I mean, if it was one weekend and your partner's back into, sobriety, then maybe we consider it a little blip on the radar. Not a blip that we totally ignore, but one that we use for introspection with your partner to talk about what happened. And then to rely on the 5 years of sobriety and all the tools that came into place during that 5 years, and to latch on to some of that stuff that really works and that worked, and just to get back on and get back on track as far as living without that addiction and without the addictive behavior that comes along with it. So if it is just like this one-time blip after 5 years, then I think that's a point where you talk about it, and then you start putting in and reinforcing some support systems. But also, like, reflect on the amazing 5 years. Like, use that as an opportunity to reflect on all the days that they got it right. And hopefully that gives you some sense of calm and an action step to take. So that's the case if it's just like a one-time blip. And maybe it's not a one-time blip. Maybe he went, or they went out into is starting a full addiction cycle right now. So if this happened recently, then it's time to sit down and have a conversation to see if you can get your partner out of that addiction cycle pretty quickly. And then I would say, like, in the scenario where someone fully goes into an addiction cycle again, if it's not like like some kind of major support system or rehab, or maybe they're just not willing, maybe there's something trauma-wise that just won't allow them to have a safe life with you. And that's something that needs to be discussed as well. So if your safety is of concern, or the person's safety is of concern, then that warrants doing something in a very caring and loving way. And that's either getting them into a major program, but severing ties with the relationship that you've had for a long time. And I'm going to assume that you've had some healthy stuff happening in the last 5 years. If you haven't had any healthy stuff happening in the last 5 years, then it might be time for you to think about, your own mental health and your own security and your own safety. And that's basically what you're looking at. If this is what you feel is going to be a long-term thing and a struggle that is something you're unwilling to continue forward with, then you have to be honest and say that, and then remove yourself from the situation. As hard as that is, because sometimes we live in these addiction cycles with our partners, and they become toxic even when they're not in what is like an active addiction. Even when we're not in an active addiction. So the key is really communication. Like, what kind of level of communication do you have with your partner? Is it healthy? If you're really feeling like, yeah, this is a one-time blip, of course, like, you're scared. Of course, like, all these old feelings are coming up, and I just have so much compassion for that. You know, maybe you can get some outside therapy just to help with those feelings if the rest of what's going on is mostly has been healthy over the last 5 years. Yeah, so that's it. Like, let's change our perspective a little bit around addiction. Of course, we have compassion. Sometimes we don't always know what to do. But if we can understand that a large number of years in sobriety is a really good thing, and let's focus on that and see how we can get more of that, then that's my advice to you. So, what I would like to do for you, and also for anybody else out there who's struggling with addiction or who has a partner who's in addiction, or may have changed recently back into active addiction, I just want to call in all of whomever is your support system around you, all the energies that are a support system around you. I'm going to call in my angels and ancestors and guides. And I'm just going to send a prayer out. I'm going to ask for these energies to be with us, to be in our space, in our presence, guiding us into the right action, and guiding us into awareness so that we can fully make sound, healthy decisions for ourselves, and that we can treat the addictions within ourselves and with others with as much compassion as we possibly can. It doesn't mean that you have to go down a scary or dangerous path with an addict. But I will ask all of our guides and all the energies, the good energies that we have around us, to assist us in healing so the addictions aren't necessary, and to assist in us changing our perspective to complete compassion for the addict and for ourselves. Thank you.